right, so last week we talked about planes being a metaphor, and we kind of explored an aspect of a plane, an oxygen mask. Fun, fun, fun. Really, that part of that lesson is really asking yourself, are you reaching for the oxygen mask that God gives us in the form of Jesus? And are we going to help others put an oxygen mask once we get ours on? And the way to really remember to do this is to cling to Jesus just like an oxygen mask would. Remember that bronze snake. Remember the cross. And always remember, Jesus is the bread of life. Well, this week, we're going to be transitioning a little bit, still using the plane analogy, but this time we're going to be talking about what is your fuel? And thinking about fuel, I think we all would agree, fuel's pretty important, right? Mm-hmm. Is it useful? I think we all use it maybe every day. Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, we all agree that fuel is important. How about the fact that we always got to remember that there's different types of fuel? And think about if a plane took off with maybe the wrong type of fuel. I'm pretty sure that would not end well. Maybe it puts the car, like gasoline that you'd put in a car into a plane. I don't know if you know that. That would not work. Jet fuel is very, very, very specialized. Just kind of imagine that image. You got a captain, he's just like, I don't really care what is in the engine. We got gas, right? Fueled up? Great, let's go. Probably everyone else is like, whoa, wait a minute here. You don't know what is in your gas tank? That's probably a good thing that you should probably look at first. Hopefully people are going to go, what is this guy doing? Stop this plane. Let's get to know what the fuel is first before we decide to take off. And you might think to yourself, oh, how foolish that. Who would do that, right? Who would be so foolish as to not know what's in their own gas tank? Well, it's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, because guess who is the person doing that? You. Definitely me. I know it's me. Could be you guys as well. We all kind of go through life and not really necessarily knowing what fuels us. What is really what keeps us kind of going. Because what kind of fuel that you have determines what you can actually accomplish. So you've got to be able to start asking yourself, what is my fuel? As they say, you are what you eat. Hated hearing that growing up, because it usually meant you gotta eat healthy. And I'm like, no. Healthy food tastes gross. I want the good stuff. Give me a bag of Cheetos and Taco Bell. At the same time, why not, right? I think they actually make now Dorito type tacos. I had one last night. It's delicious. Not healthy though. So when you think about, fuel, most of us probably have cars. You got the 3 different types of gas, and you could use the cheap gas, right? It's great. Doesn't cost as much. Maybe you go around town, you find the bargain gas. Well, there's a downside to that. It leaves residue from all the impurities inside of it. Over time, it'll eventually start making your engine not function as well. Slowly at first, and then eventually not at all if things are not fixed. So it's that short-term loss, long-term gain thing. That's a big problem. Then you got the great quality fuel. You don't want to pay for that, right? Because it costs so much money. And you actually even think to yourself, is it even possibly worth it? But then again, with the cheap gas, you have those dwindling results. Well, this lesson on the importance of doing research to the fuel is not something that's just for car engines and jet planes. It's for living things as well. For all living things, as we agreed before, need fuel to function. And I remember first starting to drive, and I found out about all these different types of fuel. It was confusing. It's like, why can't there just be one fuel? I got a car, just give me gas, and I put it in there. And then the different, companies have their different brands, and they add different things, to them. So you're constantly asking, what is the healthiest fuel for my car? Sometimes economics dictates that you just gotta go for the cheap stuff. But again, consequences. Well, there's another thing I know that we're always worried about, especially in this day and age. The fuel for your body. What's the healthiest food? Because food is fuel. Just try not eating. For me, it lasts about 2-3 hours. Then I need to eat again. I'm like a hobbit, basically. And I remember a great lesson on fueling your body up. It was actually Mount Monadnock. It's kind of funny, I think, actually. Linda had mentioned to me about Mount Monadnock. I was a Boy Scout. It was really my first time hiking a mountain. No offense, Blue Hills. But yeah, Mount Monadnock, my first real mountain. I was so excited the night before. We're eating junk food, all these different fun things. They had like this popcorn that you put over a stove. And my dad was there. I mean, this was some fun stuff. So the next morning when I got up and we were getting our food together for the hike, I thought, oh, we're going to grab all the junk food that we brought. No, we didn't. We got like some cold cut sandwiches. You filled up your canteen with nice water, even a little bit extra. Maybe some apples, some trail mix, some real healthy things. Now, in today's world for me, I'm like, yeah, I love that. That sounds awesome. Matt Thompson back then, no, he hated that. And I actually had to almost hold back my disgust. And I kind of went up to the scoutmaster and I was just like, so why are we bringing this food? Just out of curiosity. He went, oh, well, the thing is, if you don't bring really good food, you're not going to be able to make the hike. If you're having junk food, other stuff like that, soda, your body's going to slow down. You're not going to be able to have as much energy. It's going to be much harder for you to get to the top of the mountain. You eat really kind of lean, good things. It empowers you. You'll be able to get up there and back. And I was like, huh. I believed him. Didn't want to. But I went with it, and he was right. It made a difference. And I have a long history of junk food, so I know the feeling that you get. You're happy while you're eating junk food and bad food. The second you stop, you are not. Especially the second you start eating also some healthy food mixed into it. So it's really interesting to dive deep into this concept of fuel. We just kind of go through with life without realizing how important healthy eating is. And don't worry, the sermon is not going to be about healthy eating, though there are implications of it. See, God wants you to do this daunting task of looking deep within yourself, and you start asking, what is my fuel? Because if you don't, like a plane crash, your life will end in fiery inferno if you do not. Now, the matching Bible passage that goes along with this fuel, we actually just read it. Thank you, Marcia, for doing that. Exodus 27:20-21. Now, you might be focusing on a lot of different things. And I'm going to focus on just one little aspect of this because it has huge implications. Now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the tabernacle, but God told Moses to build this tabernacle. And there's many different parts. 7 main components, and this lampstand is one of them. In this lampstand, you notice it says it's supposed to burn night and day, continuously, basically. You're always going to have it burning. And you have to have clear or pure oil. It was very clear as to what type of oil will go into this thing that will burn, as we got these candles right here. That's important to know. Now, it's really, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the tabernacle structure. It was actually not this glorious temple. That's actually one of the reasons why I think David wanted to build the big temple. It was a very humble structure, and it was mobile. And inside, you had this outer gate, and then in the inside, you had the inner tent. Well, the inner tent, when you close the flaps, which were pretty much always supposed to be closed, especially if you're going to do a sacrifice in the Holy of Holies, it was pretty much pitch black. It was very dark. The only source of light inside the inside part of the tabernacle was this lampstand, which, to give you an idea of generally what it looked like, it generally looked like the modern day menorah. It had, one shaft in the middle, and then it had 3 on either side going out. And that was the lampstand, the one source of light that made it so you could go through the dark tent to the curtain, or where the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, where the high priest that once a year would go and do that main sacrifice. There are so many sermons that can be done from the tabernacle structure. But again, we're going to focus just on the oil inside that lampstand. And really thinking about the fact that God said to the Israelites, I need you to bring pure oil. Don't dilute it. Don't put spices. Don't be putting funny things into it. Partly what he was trying to say is, don't pull a Cain, be an Abel. Give the best, that purity. Because it's from there. If you have, impure things, think about what would happen inside that tent. Impure oil. It's going to get everywhere, right? It's going to pollute the air. If it's pure, it's going to burn clean. It's going to be really good. It's going to do its job to be able to illuminate people to the Holy of Holies where God dwelt here on earth. Very, very powerful sentiment. In fact, dwell on that for just a moment. Think about what that can mean. And think about what that might mean in your life. Now, another place in the Bible where this pure fuel concept comes up was Mark 14, 3-9. This is where Jesus was anointed in Bethany. Now, this story, I think, has a very interesting kind of setting. It took place during Passover. Jesus was at a table of a gentleman called Simon the leper. And this woman comes over with this extremely expensive perfume, takes it, cracks it open, dumps it over his head. Almost sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit, right? Like, what the heck is just going on here? And of course, everyone's like, why would you do that? That's worth a year's worth of wages. Do you want to know the number one person who was saying that? His name was Judas. He was the treasurer. He wanted the money. He saw all that money that he could have oversaw. Judas, by the way, if you don't remember, is the person who betrayed Jesus. He loved the money. Again, he was the treasurer. All these disciples, all these people up in arms over this woman's actions. Why would you take a year's worth of wages and dump it in a few seconds? Waste it. I mean, think about it. In modern day, do you know how much effort it takes to waste a year's worth of wages? Well, it's actually maybe a few seconds in Vegas, but outside of that, it takes a little bit of work to waste a whole year's wages. This is what this woman did. She just absolutely gave it away. And Jesus commended her for it. It wasn't that she dumped perfume. It was the type of perfume. It was called a nard. And it was this thing that was derived, largely used in medicine. It could be used in incense. And for this to be worth a year's worth of wages, you better bet the purity of that had to be absolutely top notch. And yet, it didn't matter to her. A year's worth of wages or being able to demonstrate my love to Jesus. Look at the one that she chose. Her actions had purity to it. And she gave to Jesus the pureness. Just as God said to the Israelites, bring me your pure oil, your olive oil, and I'm going to put it into this lampstand to light up the way. It's an incredible imagery of what this woman did. Now, I know she was not perfect, but she gives us a template on how we're supposed to be with Jesus. Bringing that bestness, looking at what we have, and always trying to give to God, more. See, the real beautiful aroma in that room, it was not that perfume, which I assumed from when I did the research on nard, was quite lovely smelling. The true beautiful aroma in that room was that woman's love for Jesus. And that is what Jesus saw. And all of the disciples missed. They kept it physical. They kept it practical. But they did not keep it relationally. I mean, there is just so much to kind of learn from these different passages. The pureness of our fuel is everything to God. And the problem is, how do we get that fuel? Well, it is only from God himself that we're going to be able to get this fuel. And the way to do that is you have to first purge your own system of the fuel that you already have there. If you have hate, if you have pain, those type of fuel leaves aside a toxic residue. When you have anger and frustration, it is like the gas and the oil is siphoned from your engine, your car. What happens to your car when that occurs? Your car stops. It ceases to function. If a jet plane doesn't have the right fuel, what will happen to that jet plane? That's what happens in our life. We have all these different fuels that fuel us, these different desires. And yet, the one desire that we should have, Jesus, we do not. He's kind of like a mechanic, switching you over from crude, oil and use crude gas, cleaning out your engine and putting new, beautiful things in there to get you running just right. The way you can kind of see the fuel is think about what you think about most. Really take some time. What drives you? When you're at work, what can you not wait to get home to? Now, I do want to always say, these things that you might desire, they're not necessarily wrong. Don't feel bad over them. But be thinking about how much you desire so many other things, and yet God might be one of them or none of them, and not the thing. When you think about, let's say, a nice meal that you have prepared, are you focused on the meal? Or are you focused on the Creator who provided that maybe gives you that extra little oomph? Like, oh, I love lasagna. When I eat lasagna, I feel good afterwards. Maybe I want to run a marathon. Are you focused on who helped provide that? And yes, you can say human hands all you want, but who made it so that humans could even use their hands? Who made it so that we knew how to think? I know for me, I have to always ask, do I desire God? Like I desire a nice cheeseburger from Five Guys. Who's with me on that one? It's good, right? Really greasy. Talk about needing an engine purge afterwards. That meal will do it to you. But do you desire the Lord like you desire having that? Like you desire maybe having money? Like you desire hating on things? Or you have a passion, for things? Again, these things aren't wrong necessarily, but it's about realigning them, getting rid of the impurities, and allowing for something new to fuel you. Because the thing is, when you start to be fueled by Jesus, you start noticing changes. People, let's say, are rude to you. You see the chaos in the world. You start responding differently. You start not having as much of a visceral reaction. You still have emotions. You still feel things. But you aren't owned by those emotions. You aren't owned by those desires. You just recognize that you have them and feel them. You start seeing things in a balanced perspective, never being about trying to be right. You throw that aside and you start saying, I want to know what is right. You even see, heaven forbid, the other person's side and not just your own. That's never a fun one, is it? Who wants to do that? Nobody. Yet, it's what the world needs. It needs that balance that fuel brings, that Jesus brings. And people will start to notice these small incremental changes in you. And you will. You might say, well, what is happening to me, God? Why do I feel a little bit differently? I'm still sinning, I'm still making mistakes, but I feel like I'm being led to somewhere new. When you have those right fuel with God, that pureness, you start caring more about Him, like I said, than those desires of the world. Just like that woman in Bethany, she fulfilled her desire for the Lord, and she did not fulfill what the desires of the world were. The world, they wanted her to either keep that perfume and sell it in small increments. I mean, think about it, a year's worth of wages. Or sell it all at once and give the money to the poor. So they were well intended, but they thought only of how to survive in this world. In other words, what the Lord is doing to you when you start getting the right fuel is He's transforming you into that light stand. Think about that. light stand, the one thing that shone light in otherwise a universe of darkness. For the universe's natural state, from a scientific perspective, and from just looking outside at nighttime, is darkness. And God is trying to bring lampstands into the world so that way it will show the way to God. That's pretty powerful stuff, but you won't be able to do it unless you have the right fuel. And what's really amazing is when you have that right fuel and the Lord is burning from within you, burning out, and that light is shining out. When you get close to someone, do you know what starts to happen? That person can now start to see, whereas before they could not. Because in darkness, nothing is very clear, but in light, things are. And where these people thought they were alone, right? That God abandoned them or he doesn't exist, you allow the fuel of God to go through you and that light shine. Do you know what that person starts to see? That Jesus has been next to them their whole life, cares about them their whole life. That is the effect of having the pure fuel of God inside you. You get to bring Jesus' light to the world. And all it takes is each one of us to do that. And think about that magnified effect. So, are you going to let Jesus help you get that pure fuel so that you can come out of the darkness and into the light? Let's pray. Dear Lord, forgive us how much we allow other things to get inside of us and to gunk up our engine. How much we allow ourselves to be deceived by what is from the appearance in the world to be awesome, but is really not, or needs to be brought into balance. Thank you that you give us the illustration of the tabernacle and the woman who anointed, who gave her very best, Lord. Help us to be able to do that so that way you can truly live inside of us, Lord. We know you want nothing more than to fuel us, nothing more than to guide us, Lord. And we want to give everything to you. And may today be the day that everyone here in this room really starts to hold on to that. They think about what is their oxygen mask, what is their fuel, what drives them. And may they realize that it's not you now, but it can be. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. We're going to have a video. If you are able to stand, please do so, and feel free to join in while we worship.